percent of American Indians were murdered, genocide. Actually, that's not true. The white man came to America and brought with him, unwittingly, a whole bunch of diseases, malaria, smallpox, and on it goes. The vast, vast majority of Indians contracted the plagues and died. And it wiped out the majority of them, and this was a tragedy. But it was no more of a genocide than when the Black Plague and the bubonic plague swept across Europe, wiping out 1/3 of the population of Europe, and that came from Asia. And I don't see the Europeans submitting reparations or genocide proposals in the UN. Why? Because they have the sense to recognize that this is part of the tragedy of history. Human beings have carried with them diseases to which people had no immunities at the time. This is not to excuse broken treaties or any of the rest of it, but it is a way of demanding a certain intellectual precision when we talk about these things. Now, slavery. Isn't it a fact that the founders allowed slavery? It is. And why did they do it? Because had they not allowed it, there would be no way they could have had a union. 12 of the 13 original states had slaves. Certainly the southern states, but most of the northern states would not have joined the Union had there been an attempt to forbade it at the outset. So what Lincoln said is the founders declared the right to freedom so that the enforcement could follow when the circumstances permitted. And in fact, 300,000 white boys from the North died to end slavery, securing for the African American a freedom that he was not strong enough or in a position to secure for himself. So I'm really glad somebody ran the Underground Railroad, but I don't know why nobody mentions those 300,000 white soldiers who had nothing to gain and who gave their lives to end slavery. And finally, when Martin Luther King said in the 60s, I am submitting a promissory note and I'm demanding that it be cashed, I was kind of waiting for the Southern segregationists to say, what note? We didn't make any promises to you. But in fact, Martin Luther King was not appealing to a promise made by the Southern segregationists. He was appealing to the Declaration of Independence. And here is an amazing fact. Martin Luther King was appealing to a charter and a principle articulated by a Southern slaveholding planter, Thomas Jefferson, which is another way of saying that far from repudiating the founding, what Martin Luther King was doing was claiming the promise of the founding. The founders declared the right so that the enforcement could follow when the circumstances permitted. This is a way of saying to Americans that we can look at our history with all the passion and tragedy built into it, and still take a certain justifiable pride, not just in the agitation, but also in the original principles which the founders got right from the start. Thank you.